Good morning. I see some of you came back from last week. I appreciate that. Um, so we are going to talk. First, you know what? I feel like I was a little hard on you last week. So as I was researching this week, I came across a couple of pictures, and I wanted to share those with you first. Let's take a look at this one. This is what we're going to talk about today. Ever think about that? No, because you only think about yourself. I'm going to be hard on you today, too. All right, what's the next one? I'm sorry you're mad because you just found out the world doesn't revolve around you. Here, let me pour you a tall glass of get over it. So, last week we talked about wandering aimlessly in a world of so many options. And we talked about the fact that some of us need to make a decision to eliminate some things from our lives and make decisions where there is no turning back. And so by doing that, so that we can run after Jesus, just like Elisha ran after Elijah. And so we talked about, and some of you did this last week, some of you probably burned some plows and barbecued some cows. And I hope that you did that. But you may not have noticed that we purposely left off the very end of the story last week, and that's in verse 21. And so after Elisha burned up the oxen and he burned his plows, he gave it to the people, and after they ate, this is what it says. It says, then he set out to follow Elijah and became his servant. So today, we're going to talk about becoming a servant, because when you burn your plows and you barbecue the cows, that's a one-time deal, right? You can't continue to do that. So what makes it so hard for many of us to serve? What makes it so hard for us to be a servant? Well, I'm going to tell you. I want you to, does anybody have a mirror? Okay. If you have a mirror in your purse, pull it out and look at it, and there's your problem. Okay? When you go to the bathroom, I'm not saying everybody get up and go to the bathroom. Okay? When you look at that person, most times there's your problem. I want to read you something. It says this: any life that's run on self-will can hardly be a success. On the basis of self-will, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though many times our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. I know this is none of you, but the actor is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his or her own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens when we try to control things? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be, but still the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can earn satisfaction and happiness out of the world if only he manages well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of the other actors retaliate, snatching all they can out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. So whatever your beliefs are, most of us are concerned with ourselves, our resentments, our self-pity, selfishness, self-centeredness. That, we think, is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some point we have made decisions based on self, which later place us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and we are an extreme example of self-will run riot, though you usually don't think so. Above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Now, how many of you identify with that? Raise your hands. Okay? Some of you don't. Some of you are lying. You just don't, you're too lazy to raise your hands. So, let me, those of you that raise your hands, congratulations, you're an alcoholic. So, I'm just kidding. So this is from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so, selfish self-centeredness, that we think is the root of all of our troubles. This was me, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. You step on somebody and they retaliate. But you really think through it, you put yourself in that position at some point. But we got to get rid of this selfishness or it kills us. But here's the rest of what it says. We have to get rid of the selfishness because it kills us. And this is what it says. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us have tried to live by a set of rules, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. First of all, we had to quit playing God. And next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He's the Father. We're the children. And most good ideas are simple. And this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass through to freedom. So clearly, guys, in today's society, we live in a selfish society. Amen? Most of us are so just numb to the me-first culture that we are suspicious of anybody who has an others-first attitude, right? When somebody tries to be nice to you or somebody tries to do something for you, you're like, what is wrong with you? What do you want? Right? Your kids, right? They could be awful all day, and then they have a moment of clarity, and they want to come up and they say, hey, Dad, what can I do for you? And you're like, okay, what do you want? Right? So we live in that culture. Even in corporate America, they teach in sales training the WIFM principle. What's in it for me, right? That's what everybody wants to know. What's in it for me, Andy? We got a bad case of the jimmies. You know what the jimmies are? It's when you pray and all you say is, gimme, gimme, my name's Jimmy. That's not the Lord's Prayer. So let's just be honest. As far as we're concerned, we are the center of our universe, amen? Our world revolves around us. I had an old man tell me one thing. Look, Andy, I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. Okay? But being self-centered comes with a price. Have you ever had a real, true relationship with somebody that's just a self-absorbed individual? No, it's impossible. So James goes right to the heart of this. James is my favorite book in the Bible, but let's look at James chapter 4, verses 1 through 3 real quick. I'm going to read this. James chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you don't have, so you kill. You covet, but you can't get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You don't have it because you don't ask God. When you ask, you don't receive because you do it with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Now, in the Polk County version of this we could have shortened this a lot. And James could have said this: what causes y'all to fight and fuss? And the answer is because you didn't get something you wanted. So the root of all relational conflict is really simple, and that's that somebody didn't get their own way. And normally, that's you. When you set yourself up for friction when you're getting your way and winning becomes your preoccupation. When you put me first, all times it's only a matter of time until you go into collision or run into somebody else that doesn't have the same ideas about what this thing should be or what does it look like. So, the same thing. While we all want to be crusaders for what we think is right? The truth is, most of us crusade for what we want. So now, I beat you up a little bit there. I think we can all agree that we are a selfish people. If you're not, we'll hold another class after this. Meet me right up here and we'll talk more about how selfish you are. But anyway, that's a joke for you new people. So the opposite of selfishness must be selflessness. And so the opposite of that is found in Philippians 2, which is where we're going to spend our time this morning. Philippians 2, that being united with Christ, having tenderness and compassion. So, how do we become more selfless? Philippians 2, verses 3 through 8. Actually, when I was going through my ordination process, I actually adopted this as my life verse because, man, I'm just going to tell you, if we all get this and we get this only, we can change this world. Let's read it and then we're going to come back. So, Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 through 8. Verse 3 says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, Jesus made himself nothing and took on the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. And being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient, even death on a cross. I love that so much. If that was, this is what I want on my tombstone. There's 4 things here that I see that can kind of help maybe get us over this me first bend that we have and try to break free. Number 1 is this: we can't allow selfish ambition and or vain conceit to drive our decisions. So I think it's important that those are kind of big words that we define. What is that? Selfish ambition. What does that mean, Andy? Well, here's what it means. It's a motivation to elevate oneself or to put one's own interests before another's. See, it doesn't say that ambition's a bad thing. It says selfish ambition's a bad thing. When we try to put ourselves and our interests above someone else. And then Paul refers to vain conceit. I had to look this one up. Vain conceit means excessive pride or self-esteem that has no consideration, no foundation in reality. It's an elevated or an incorrect view or sense of self. It's that mistaken notion that we deserve special consideration because there's really something really inherently special with us. See, we have to have a complete mind shift from a me first to others first in everything we do. Now, don't get me wrong. All of us are special and unique in the eyes of God. But does our uniqueness entitle us to special treatment at the expense of others? No, it doesn't. Number 2, We must view others as more important than ourselves. They get harder as they go along, just so you know. Okay? We don't elevate ourselves above others, but we willingly sacrifice, that's a big word, in order to love them. See, when we act this way, when the church acts this way, when we are of one mind like that, then everybody's cared for. Just think about what Bonnie just talked about. When we came together and we prayed for Randy, we were of one mind. And who got taken care of? Randy, the guy that needed taken care of. Now, Paul never says that one person is better than another. Rather, he says we're to treat others as if they were better or more important than ourselves. So think about this for a minute. We all have heroes, right? We all have people that we think are really special. So, I don't know. Who's your hero? Think about that. Think about who your favorite actor, actress. Think about who your favorite pastor is. I know for many of you it's Bonnie. I get it, okay? So, I was told that 3 or 4 times this morning, so I'm pretty beat down already, okay? I'm just kidding. So let's just say that, okay, my favorite basketball player is Larry Bird. Let's say that one day Larry Bird knocks on my door, and what would happen is the whole door would be blacked out because he's about that big and about that wide. How would I treat Larry Bird when he came into my house? Would I treat him extra special? Would I be nice to him? Would I pull out all the nice things I had? Would I maybe even pull out some of that good deer meat I have in my freezer? You betcha. You betcha. And so that's how we should treat everybody. And that's not easy to do. That's how we should treat everybody. We must simply consider or treat others as if they were better. Number 3, we got to look out for others' interests. Okay? We can't become consumed with our own interests so much that we have to become interested in the things that interest others. Now, that's not to say that our own interests are not important. They are. Or that they're inferior in some way. But when it comes to how we treat others, we need to make others a priority. Think about this. Think about this person. Instead of always talking about ourselves and our own schedules and our own fears and our own hurts and our own dreams and our own assignments and our own accomplishments and our own challenges, what if we instead sort of focus on the needs, the schedules, the fears, the hurts, the dreams, the accomplishments and challenges of the people around us? Easier said than done. I get it. And finally, number 4, the toughest one of them all. Follow Christ's example of humility. Paul says, look, get the attention off yourself. You're not the most important person in the universe. Paul said it. I didn't say it, so don't hate me. Okay? In fact, just like Jesus, we should consider every person around us as more important than ourselves. I tell you, life gets a whole lot simpler when you do that. But when we're challenged to put others first, we're very quick, aren't we, to make excuses for our love and our fascination with ourselves. Our go-to is, let me tell you about the unworthiness of the people around me. If you saw how so-and-so treated me, or he or she never has time for me, so why should I put them first? Or none of my friends express any interest in how I feel, so why should I care about how they feel? That person doesn't treat me with respect. Why should I respect them? And I feel like the Apostle Paul, he expected those objections to support his idea to put others first. So he immediately points to the direction of the supreme, selfless example in Jesus. He just says we are to take our cues from Jesus himself We are literally to have the same perspective and attitude as Christ. That's tough, right? That mentality is at the very root of our Christianity. Paul says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ. Jesus put us, and he goes on to tell us that Jesus put aside his own self, making himself nothing for us. If you need examples of Jesus and just read the Gospels and focus on if you do nothing else, focus on how he treated other people. Jesus consistently treated people as if they were more important than him. He never pulled rank. He never said, look, I'm the Son of God and you must treat me this way. Jesus played by the rules by choice, not by necessity. Jesus was the king who never demanded the pomp and circumstance or respect or courtesy that's due to royalty. Not only that, he was constantly serving people. Washing feet, healing the sick, comforting the brokenhearted, bringing people back to life. Jesus willingly submitted himself to the will of others. And how far did he do that? How far did Jesus take his servant mentality? All the way to death, even on the cross. See, on the cross, Jesus put us, each of us, ahead of his own desires. His desire for a relationship with each person in this room was more important to him than getting the royal treatment that he deserved. Now, we're all born selfish. Trust me, I understand that. A servant attitude is not natural to us. So, if you consider yourself a follower of Jesus, we are to imitate him. And if we're to imitate him, what are the things that he was doing? We need to look. And as we just said, he's always serving. What was precious to Jesus? People. People were precious to Jesus. He considered people more important than all the other power that he had access to and all the other positions that he could have had in this world. You see, when we live our lives as if we're nothing, then we become something in God's eyes. See, greatness in this world that we live in today comes from many things: power, prestige, wealth, fame. But we need to understand that greatness in God's kingdom comes only through serving others. And we're only going to get that when we humble ourselves and consider the needs of others before our own. Now, guys, we can take this biblical teaching and we can allow it to change us, or we can argue with it and look for loopholes so that we don't have to follow it. As you know, our mission here at High Point is to love God and love people. And so, in order to do that, we got to serve. Mark 10:45, I love this. This kind of goes along the way we've been talking about. For even the Son of Man. Now, this is the guy that we've been singing to all morning, that we worship to, that we pray to. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served. Wait. The creator of the universe didn't come for us to serve him? The one who's entitled to be honored and worshiped did not come to be served, but to serve. So tell me why you're not serving. Why you're not serving it here at church? Why? We say this: well, I don't have time. It's not about having time. It's about making time. See, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not important, you'll find an excuse. We say things like, well, I don't, fill in the blank. I can't because fill in the blank. I love this one. I would if, or I will when, blah, blah, blah. You're probably sick of hearing your own self and your excuses. And I can only imagine how sick God is of hearing it. I want to give you a visual demonstration, thanks to my friend Dalton here, of selfishness. And to give us a reminder of how we can remind ourselves that selflessness is the goal. Now, we have a rope here. I want to show you a picture of what selfishness looks like. We have a rope here that went all the way back there, went all the way down, came all the way back up here. And let me tell you, there's still plenty of rope, even though I can't see the bullet right now. But here's what I want you to do. On the opposite side of what we talked about selfishness is selflessness. So, I also understand this, that there are times in our lives when the road gets tough, right? And it's long. And let me put this in perspective for you real quick. Later in Philippians chapter 3, very next chapter, Paul says this. This is chapter 3, verses 12 through 14. I love verse 14. Verse 12 says, I don't mean to say that I have already achieved these things or that I've already reached perfection. That these things but I press on to possess that perfection for which Christ Jesus first possessed me. Verse 13, no, dear brothers and sisters, I've not achieved, but I focus on one thing. Forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead. There's a whole sermon there. But verse 14, I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Jesus, is calling me. You see, your actions, a lot of things you do today should be based on your future. Because everything you do is either going to be a regret or a reward. So what I want to challenge you with is you have this rope. I wish I had a lot more of this rope, but I don't. We want to live in the yellow. You see this little piece of black right here? This piece of black represents a few things. One is selfishness. Anytime you do something that's selfish, it ends right here. That's it. And the other way to look at this, what I really want you to focus on, is this rope represents time. You see, this black piece represents, and it's only so big so you can see it, but this black part represents your time on earth. We just have a few short years here on earth, and then we have an eternity somewhere else. And when I say eternity, that's a number that we can't comprehend as humans. Millions, billions, trillions, gazillions of years. Imagine that this yellow rope goes on forever, because it does. And that this is what blows me away. That all some of us think about is the black part of this rope. That's all you think about. You're consumed with next week or what's going to happen. Some of you are more concerned about lunch right now than you are about listening to what I'm talking about. We spend all of our time, a lot of us, I'm guilty of this at times myself, focusing on this 70 to 90 years or 150 years, however long you're going to live, that you just think about, man, maybe you're right here, maybe you're right here, or maybe some of you are, I feel like today I'm like right here. Anyway, Some of you are here, and all you think about is, man, I can't wait to get there. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to save. And then when I get right here, I'm just going to kick back. You're just consumed with that thought, that thinking. I'm going to travel. I'm going to eat well. Are you kidding me? What about all of this? The Bible teaches us that what we do here influences what happens in the big rope. This determines how you're going to spend the rest forever. So why would I spend all the time that I have on earth on this little black part? Why would I do that, trying to make myself as comfortable as possible? Paul just says, look, I got to endure this, but I keep my eye on this. Think about, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with selling. Just say you had $1 billion. I bet you all wish you had $1 billion. I wish I had $1 billion. What are you going to do with that? What'd you do with that? Would you spend it here, or would you invest it here? I don't know the answer to that question. How about your time? How about when you get to the end here? Are you going to say, man, I'll tell you what, I wish I'd have spent more time watching movies. Oh, I only watched 7,000 movies. I wish I'd have watched 8,000. Okay? Or why would you spend this little black part of this rope miserable? Look what you got to look forward to. Why would you hold on to hurts and grievances against somebody else and what they may have done to you? Why? Paul says, I'm going to live for this mission. I'm focusing on this. I'm going to forget about all this little stuff that I could enjoy or these little inconveniences, because I have to tell you guys, we don't get this chance again. We get one shot at this, unless you believe in recreation, which you wouldn't be here if you did, right? And I have to also tell you that it could end like this for any of us. You got one chance, and then bam, eternity. I'm not going to spend my life here simply for here. Does that make sense? See, the world looks at some of our decisions and goes, man, you're stupid. Why would you do that? Because that's really going to affect this. And I say, no, actually, you're stupid, because my decisions are going to affect this. Right? And so we look at the way some people live and we go, man, if you could just see it, it's not about this. Paul says, I'm going to look around at all this stuff that I see, but it's not going to tempt me. It's tempting to all of us. How many people do you know, and some of you may have lived in this black part of this rope for a long time. At some point in our lives, we all live for self, right? But we never think about the millions and gazillions of years afterwards. And what I would call that is what really matters. It's a worldly deception. It's the enemy's attack that we can't get out of our mind, because we have to worry about this, right? We have to worry about this. But when you invest in eternal things, amazing things happen. When you understand that is it okay to say stupid in church? All the stupid things that you think are important here mean nothing here. Then maybe tonight you can go to sleep knowing that the creator of the world, The guy who created this world is more than capable of taking care of you here. So why would you worry about this? Stop measuring your success based on this and start measuring your success based on this. Realize that we're all sinners, right? Stop judging other people. You see, we can't get to here until we get to the end of ourself. Imagine this being us and the yellow being God. We can't be filled with God when we're filled with ourselves. See, it's not till we get to the end of ourselves when we say, I'm done, I've had enough. Can we then really start to live in the yellow? When you see that God himself came to serve, and that our comfort and what we want and our horrible time management don't allow us to spend any time on things in the yellow, when you realize how minuscule our lives are in comparison to forever, you'll understand. Charles is going to come up, I think, and sing a song. I don't really know what he's going to do, which I love, right? Because is that here or here? It's really not important, is it? It's here. So on each of your chairs, I have given you a little piece of rope. And as I cut these out, these were handmade, by the way. I didn't produce these in mass quantities. I prayed over them. I did this. This is how God works. I knew I was on the right track because here's the deal. Last night, I did this illustration in Mississippi probably 3-4 years ago. And I got a text, which we're going to show here in just a second. I haven't heard from this. I saw the guy in May when we went through there. But I got a text from a guy that I haven't had a text from since December 29th. And this is what it said. At 7:39 last night, he sends me a text. And if you'll see there, he's got his little piece of rope with the tape on it. And he says, that's all the text said, man, I've had to lean on this a lot lately. How you doing? He's a successful businessman, but he also understands it's all about the yellow. And we all fight. We all fight trying to spend too much time here. You see, it's all about the yellow, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want to read you a poem really quick. It's called The Dash. Some of you may have heard this. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars we drive, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while. So when your eulogy is read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things that they say about how you lived your dash? So I want to close with a few questions for you. How are you going to spend the rest of your dash? Are you going to spend it here? Or are you going to spend it here? Is your schedule of activities still going to be more important than serving others? Is the position that you hold among your friends or the position that you have at work more important than serving others? Maybe your ego or your pride is keeping you from stooping so low to serve. Are you going to live in and for the black part of the rope? Or are you going to live in and for, if you're really going to live in the yellow? Because I have to tell you that when we think about the sacrifice, we talked about this, that Jesus paid the ultimate price for us. He made himself nothing, even to the point of death. Do you want to know why? Because you're worth it. You're worth it. Are you going to do the song? Yes? He's going to do something. Okay. It's going to be a secret. Okay, it's a secret. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about this. I want you to take this. If you don't have any, we're going to do something different. So, which is fine. Again, that's here, not here. I don't care about here. Whatever you want to do, Charles. All right? I live here, man, not here. Thank y'all for being patient this morning. But I want you to think about your life. Starting today, are you going to live in the yellow or are you going to live in the black? And as the team sings, I feel like I need to invite you to come and pray. If you want to come and pray, if you need to make some changes in your life, we'll have people up here to pray with you. This worship this morning got me juiced up, man. Yellow or black? The question's yours. Let's pray.